We can see.
Krishna Vistar Bhutane, Shrimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamini, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Guravani Pacharini, Nirvese Sasunyamari Pasita Sitarini, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasudhi Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So we're going to see a whole bunch of slides here from 1972 on, all the way to Prabhupada's departure. And I will talk about some personal experiences of Srila Prabhupada, and it will be very fascinating to you, actually. I was not with Srila Prabhupada all the time. I was not one of the team that was traveling with us. I was preaching in Germany and in India. And so some or other, I met Srila Prabhupada. And now we start, here we go. You see, this is a very bad picture of Srila Prabhupada, but that's the first time that I saw Srila Prabhupada on the airport. This is a Xerox copy of a copy of a copy, and I lost the original at the airport. I came the day before to Amsterdam. In Amsterdam, I was preaching in Germany, and so I knew where he would come into immigration. At that time, we didn't have EU. So I went upstairs, I was alone, and when I arrived there, I saw Prabhupada right in front of me, and he lifted his hand, as you can see, and this is just between Srila Prabhupada and myself. It's a very Prabhupada personal moment. He had a smile on his face, and I knew, and I saw him, this is my spiritual master. So we went downstairs, where the devotees were at the luggage carousel collecting the luggage, and Prabhupada went into the VIP lounge. There were some journalists waiting for him. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, we are able to hear you.
All right. So there were some journalists, and Prabhupada lectured. And I was surprised because previously I could hear or understand Srila Prabhupada's Bengali only by 50% or 80%, 70%, something. But there are really strange words, like Prabhupada, when he talks about birds, he talks about bharats. There are very many bharats in the sky. What are bharats? And so many other Bengali kind of expression of the English language. But and so in the morning before I went to the airport, I listened to a tape, and that was the situation. So when I listened to Prabhupada, for some reason, I could understand every single word, and I was surprised. So when I went back to the temple, it was true that I could understand every single word Prabhupada was saying. It was kind of, I thought it was a miracle. That from one moment to another, from then on, I could understand every single word. So that was in Amsterdam, down here. Okay. Now, here you see a picture with Srila Prabhupada on the left side, and on the right side is Professor Durkheim. Durkheim is a very famous Zen Buddhist who actually brought Zen Buddhism to Europe and to the Western world. He was from a very aristocratic family, 800, 900 years old family. They have a huge castle. A very, how do you say, impressive person. He was ambassador for Germany in Japan, and that's where he learned about Zen Buddhism. So he was the first person who introduced Zen Buddhism in Germany, and I was myself into Buddhism at one stage and interested in Durkheim. So I read in the papers that more than 30 German bishops were sitting at his feet, taking instructions. And I thought, well, that's the man Prabhupada should meet. If they listen to him, then, and he would listen to Prabhupada, then this will be very good preaching. And so I arranged it. You see me in the middle. You can see that? Yeah? Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
You see, I'm in the middle between the two.
Yes.
Yeah, you are there. Yes, yes, Prabhu.
Nice.
Yes, Prabhuji, we can see you.
Okay, so I'm
Unable
translating.
to recall, right, sir.
Clear.
All right. So here are some pictures further with Srila Prabhupada on morning walks. On the right side is Hansadutra, and the back is Manidhara. In the middle, I'm listening to Prabhupada's words very attentively. I just read Gamsha around my head. Here's another picture. Here's another one. Here's another one. I'm in the background there. So here is Srila Prabhupada's meeting with Professor Durkam. You can read that?
Yes.
Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu, yes, yes.
Okay. So here's Professor Durkam and Prabhupada. And Prabhupada immediately understood that he was a very aristocratic man, very cultured man, and the way how he presented himself. And Prabhupada felt very comfortable with him. And so Prabhupada, in fact, they became friends over a very short time. And so Prabhupada discussed with him, and we were all sitting there in front of Srila Prabhupada. This Professor Durkam, oops, let me go back. And so Prabhupada had the habit to always ask this one question to everybody he met and wanted to discuss. He would ask, what is your philosophy? So that he can understand who is he talking to. Otherwise, like young Bhakta is preaching to a guest and very enthusiastically for half an hour. And then he said, can you understand this? And the guest said, I don't speak English. Because he didn't ask this question, what is your philosophy? So Prabhupada asked his philosophy. And Durkheim explained very beautifully Zen Buddhism philosophy. I was very impressed. And I knew this sort of philosophy. And then Prabhupada said, now you believe in reincarnation. Buddhists believe in reincarnation. At the time of death, what travels into the next body? And Durkheim said, the mind. And Prabhupada said, that's true. And I know that's the Buddhist philosophy, the mind travels. And it's also true. Yam yama pismalam bhavam tyadrati and tikadevalam, wherever the mind is at the time of death, there you go. And then Prabhupada said, what else? And Durkheim was kind of puzzled by this question. And so Prabhupada said, is the mind is just one component of the subtle body. There is the mind, there's intelligence, manasarira, buddhisarira, ahankara, and on top of it, there's a soul. And so one thing I forgot to mention, when they start this discussion and Prabhupada asked this question, what is your philosophy? And Durkheim expressed his philosophy. He asked Prabhupada, what do you think of this after 20 minutes or so? And Prabhupada said, not very intelligent. Durkheim was in a shock when he said that. And he said, why, Swamiji, you say that? And then Prabhupada started preaching to him, explaining this point, that when you say the mind, there's just one component of the triad, like a three-wheeler, three wheels, mind, intelligence, and ego. And Prabhupada said, and who is the passenger? Durkheim was completely bewildered. I mean, this never crossed his mind, this terminology. And he said, well, who is it? And he said, that's you, you're the Atma. And then Prabhupada said, and who's the driver of the vehicle? And Durkheim, by that time, he was kind of at the end of his knowledge. And he said, frankly, I have no idea. And Prabhupada said, that's Krishna. He is a driver. He's a super soul in everyone's heart. He's a driver. And there's a mind, there's a subtle body that you can even experience in a dream when you drift out of your body. And what happens there? The soul is traveling in the subtle body and you go here and there. I have vivid experience of that in many, many dreams I had over my lifetime. And so it's the mind and the subtle body, linga sarira, is traveling. Mind, intelligence, and false ego, and the soul is the passenger, and it goes back into the body. So that was the discussion. Duram was very fascinated with that. And then Prabhupada preached to him again and again. He said, I remember this because I was recording tape. He said, the most important thing is to understand you're not the body, you're spirit soul. You understand that. But you're part of God. As a soul, you're part of God, and your duty is to serve God. He repeated this 3-4 times. And Duram, somehow he got it. And he stood up and he paid a full dandavat in front of Prabhupada. Prabhupada was sitting, his picture is not exactly correct. Prabhupada was sitting on a seat on one side, Duram on the other side. And so he played a full dandavat to Prabhupada and he touched his foot. And he said to me, Swami Prabhupada, please accept me as your younger brother. It was a big thing for this man. I mean, this guy is not a small guy. He's you get every decoration you can possibly get from the German government. He is a huge personality in Germany. And so he paid full dandavat to Prabhupada. And so in the aftermath, they would walk in so many different ways. Here you see Professor Duram and Prabhupada walking over the field. Can you see that?
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, visible.
It's here in Frankfurt, early in the morning. On the left side is Satsvarup March. I'm actually here. This is shadow over his head. And there are further pictures here on morning was. You can see that Duram is walking like a personality. He had a presence, and so had Prabhupada. You know, these are two extraordinary personalities, and they enjoyed talking to each other in this discussion here in the back. It's myself again, and it was highly interesting. This discussion on many issues, and Duram was very impressed by Prabhupada. And so I remember when I brought him back to the railway station, Frankfurt railway station, I picked him up there, I brought him back, and he said to me, he said, Prithu Prabhu, he said, I've met many big personalities in India. I met Swamis, I met sadhus, I met every Baba who's of any fame. I met Mans. I met many big personalities in India. I met the Pope. I met in the West so many people. He said, I've never met anybody like this spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. He said, this is actually the greatest day of my life. It was extraordinary. Think about that. If this person would make such a statement. Never met a person like Srila Prabhupada. I was amazed. And so you can see how Prabhupada was able to touch the heart of such an important and famous personality within practically speaking hours. So now we come to the next person, Father Emmanuel Junklausen. Father Emmanuel Junklausen was a Catholic monk, a Benedictine monk. And he was always chanting. If you look here, you see in his hands this black thing. He has some beads. I'm right here because I'm translating the conversation. And Prabhupada asked him, Father Emmanuel, what are you chanting on these beads? And he said, I'm chanting the names of Jesus Christ. And Prabhupada said, yes. He said, we are chanting the names of Krishna, you chant the name of Christ. He said, there's so much similarity between Krishna and Christ, in the name even, that Christo, which is a Greek translation of Messiah, he said Christo and Krishna is etymologically very close to each other. And so you can see Prabhupada didn't try to change him because he could see that he was a serious man in his, what must have been 50 years old at that time. And so then he asked him, how much are you chanting? He said, I try to chant all day. And Prabhupada said, that's wonderful. He said, you should continue this. God will be very pleased with you. And then he said, and are you vegetarian? Father said, yes, I'm a vegetarian. And so Prabhupada was very, can you understand? Hello, can you understand?
Yes, Prabhu, we are able to understand.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so and then they walked together, and you can see Professor Durkheim walking in Germany, this little village which is next to our place, and you can see he always had these beats. He was a serious practitioner, and he loved to hear about Prabhupada, the similarities and the differences also. And you see here, this is now just 2 years ago. I visited him in his abbey. He was the head man, the abbot of the abbey, and we have been friends over so many years. And so when I left, he said, I have been thinking about the Hare Krishna movement now since almost more than 40 years, he said. And one thing I can understand, he said, there is a lot of piety in the Hare Krishna movement. He said, and therefore it will flourish. He said, there's no doubt about it, it will flourish. It was beautiful to see a person from a complete different religiosity being able to grasp that there was a lot of piety, is a lot of piety in the Hare Krishna movement. Because of the piety, it will flourish, because purity, after all, is a force. So this is this chapter. And then here's some morning walks with Prabhupada. There's one picture missing, actually. Let me just go ahead and look at it if I can find it somewhere. There's a picture missing. Oops. No, there's one picture missing, which is a pity. Oops. There is it. Yeah, that's a picture. Okay, here Prabhupada is speaking to this gentleman here, Professor Porsche, Professor Dr. Porsche. And he is a professor for Christian theology and a Jesuit. So quite very educated man. And so Prabhupada asked the same question. He said, Professor Porsche, what is your philosophy? I mean, this was Prabhupada's constant feature. He always would ask before he talks to somebody, what is his philosophy? Just like one time, one Indian man said in Bombay, I think, or Delhi, he said to Prabhupada, Swamiji, do you know the Satya Sai Baba? And Prabhupada said, I never heard of him. Because everybody and his mothers in India knows the Satya Sai Baba. Prabhupada didn't want to give him any credit. Never heard of him. Prabhupada said, what is his philosophy? You see, here's the answer. What is his philosophy? He said it's God. Oh, Prabhupada, I want to see God. You have a picture of God. And he showed us the picture, and Prabhupada looked at the picture and slept on the picture. That's not God. He said, this is just an ugly old man. He said, God is beautiful and young. Advaita Machuti Manari Manantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Nava Yoganam Shamnaga. That's not God. You can forget about this God. So this way, in a very, how do you say, charming and way, at the same time he made this point that this philosophy is useless. So anyway, he asked this Professor Porsche, what is your philosophy? And Professor said, well, Jesus died for our sins and nobody comes to the Father but through me. And this same old thing I have heard in church for the last 17 years or 18 years before I came to Krishna consciousness, which is basically speaking Manodharma, mental speculation. There's no substance there, there's no deep understanding of soul. Christianity, Muslim religion, Jewish religion have no defined understanding of soul, and therefore they cannot understand why innocents suffer, why a child is suffering. Like my brother died of cancer with 7. I asked this question when I was only 10 years old. There's a priest at the coffin. He said, what has my brother done that he should suffer like this? He said, I don't know. And so this is a thing that it's a fantastic, it's a weak point if you ever talk to Christians. And there are plenty of them. You ask me this question, why do the innocent suffer? Where is God in all this? Where is justice? God is, he's omnipresent, he's omnipotent, he's omniscient. He knows everything is everywhere and is all powerful. So why doesn't, in the presence of God, how is this possible? And so the common answer is that you find every time you ask a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, the answer is the same. We don't know, because they have no defined concept of soul. They think the soul is a one-moment event. This life, the next life, that's it. And so this is, of course, completely contrary to Krishna's philosophy. For the soul, there's never birth or death, never was a time that I did not exist. You know, and so many verses that describe this knowledge. So these are mental concoctions and very dogmatic ones. And so Prabhupada defeated him. And so then the professor asked him, what is now the essence of all this? And Prabhupada was silent for a moment. And then he said, it was, I was in shock when he said that. It was very deep and very profound. It was like a rumbling cloud. He said, 2,000 years have passed. He said to him, 2,000 years have passed. And still you don't understand Jesus. The man was in a shock. He said, oh, Swamiji, why do you say that? And Prabhupada said, because if you understand Jesus, if you can understand Jesus, then you can understand Krishna. And when you can understand Krishna, you understand Jesus. And if you say you want to love Jesus, you must love also Krishna, because Jesus says, love your Lord. And if you love Krishna, you love Jesus automatically. And if you say that you want to love only Jesus and not Krishna, then you have no knowledge. And that's exactly the point. You know, that's exactly, I mean, Prabhupada is so sharp and so precise. You know, how he works this out. You have no knowledge. No knowledge of the soul. What is the soul? You can ask any Christian, Muslim, Jew. There's no answer. And you should challenge him like that. And then you say, well, I can tell you what the solution is. And then you can explain to him. Just in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I mean, even the top people in the church, like there was a tsunami in Japan, you all remember, a couple of years ago, maybe 5 years ago. And the then Pope, a German, Benedict Pope, he's in charge for 3 billion, 3.5 billion people all over the world, Christians. And he had a teleconference, some sort of like a Zoom conference, that people could call in from all over the world. And so there was a little girl called from Japan. His name is Elena. That means she's a Christian. She had these Japanese eyes, but she was a Christian. He said, Holy Father, you know God. All my friends are dead. How do you understand that? Where's God in all this? And he said, I have the same questions. He said, and we do not have the answer. We do not have the answer. And he said, but then again, Jesus is with you and he is with you always. He's God on earth. And he went on and on, basically speaking, telling them the Christian take on that. And in the end, he said, and he was humble enough to admit that. I was kind of impressed that he said that, but I asked the same question, I don't know. And then he said in the end, and I thought it was most amazing, he said, one day we may even understand why it is so. And that is a fact, you know, because one day the Lord Chaitanya movement will be everywhere. And basically speaking, all your questions are answered. You just have to go into the next Hare Krishna temple and buy Bhagavad Gita for 130 rupees or something. You read the second chapter and you're all set. Everything is there. The knowledge is right there. We need to have knowledge. That's why it says we should go to the spiritual master and Christ. Basically, self-realized soul can give you knowledge because they have seen the truth. So there is no parampara there. There's no defined knowledge there. There are many pious people there, no doubt about it, and all religion is in the ultimate issue inspired by Krishna, by the super soul, for a good reason. Because people are attached to the material in different degrees, and if somebody is stuck on some material attachment, there's a reason for it. But I never understood really what Prabhupada would say. Understood it by accepting it blindly. But Mayavadi religion is the last snare of Maya. But then I heard that Prabhupada said something very explanatory. He said, it is actually protecting the purity of devotional service. And I was shocked when I heard that. And then Prabhupada elaborated on it. And that basically speaking, and not verbatim, but basically speaking, if you have this desire and you go to the gate of heaven, when you die, and the man at the door, according to Christian thinking, it is St. Peter, I asked him a question. He said, what do you want to do in heaven? He said, well, I want to become God. He said, oh yes, there is a philosophy for that. And the last snare of Maya, there is a philosophy that you go right back and study Shankaracharya. And somebody will say, well, I heard that in heaven I can enjoy 96 virgins, which is the version of Muslims who die in the jihad. Very common idea. He said, well, yeah, this is fine, there's a religion for that. And that's Muslim religion. And somebody said, well, I want to be with the angels in heaven. Well, in Vaikuntha, there are no angels. It is definitely the Svargaloka, the heavenly planets. Kinaloka, more precisely, because Garuda is the king of the Kinnaras, and he's a winged human being. And so there appear as messengers in the universe, as messengers of the universe, of the Kinnaras. So you can see how this all falls together. That in Vedic study, we have some very clear and defined concepts of everything. And so these are different traps. It's like a king, he surrounds his castle with a moat that people fall into. And then there may be booby traps, like an elephant you catch by digging a huge hole and you cover it nicely with grass, etc., and the elephant falls into it. These are the different traps that are set out by Krishna himself, inspiring this religion, that religion, that religion, and this religion, who are all mana dharma and who are supposed to be given up. When Krishna says, Sarva Dhamma Prijajya, Mami Kamsa Aham Tram Sarva Papagyu. So Sarva Dharma means not religion in itself. Religion is pure, like milk, but if you add citric acid, it becomes, it turns into yogurt. And so, although religion is pure, under the influence of passion and ignorance, it deteriorates into this mundane religion or that mundane religion, and from there into religious sectarianism, from there into religious fanaticism, and ultimately into religious imperialism in the mode of darkness. That you think, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, that religion is, you consider religion to be irreligion and irreligion to be religion. So the starting point is the same. It is knowledge. Namely, religion is pure. And at the heart of every religious persuasion, but it is deeply covered by dogma and by concepts, by mental speculation. There's actually a verse by Krishna's Kaviraj. He said, by the Adi Lila, one, I think. It says that by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, even a child can cross the ocean of theories about God. Very interesting. Theories about God. It's an ocean of theories about God. They're all man-made, they're all manadharma, man-made religion, which are full of the crocodiles of the various concepts. That is a very fantastic word in Adilila, which points out that when Krishna talks of religion, he doesn't talk about Sanatana Dharma. He talks about Manodharma, man-made religion, religious theological constructs by theologians, which is natural. You know, this is a human mentality, is to speculate, to impose their own mindset on something that they don't understand. Classical example is, of course, a discussion between Lord Chaitanya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wanted to explain to Lord Chaitanya the Vedanta Sutra. And after 7 days, Lord Chaitanya didn't say anything. They asked him, Sarvabhauma asked Lord Chaitanya, did you understood? He said, I understood well. He said, then? He said, well, the problem is that I understand very well Vedanta Sutra, but you're covering the explanation, with your explanations, you're covering the Vedanta Sutra. And that's exactly the nature of mundane religion. There's so many different philosophies and so many different ideas, even in Christianity. There are so many, 6,000 different denominations, because it's all based on the fertile mind of a human being. We all know that religion is made by God, Dhamman Isakshat Bhagavad Panitam, as it says in Mahabharata. But then there are opinions. And Srila Jiva Goswami explains that there are 3 ways of knowing. One is through direct perception, through the senses, through the nose, to the eyes, to the ears, to the mouth, to the sense of tactile sense, to the sense of touch. And you get, if you use these faculties, you get one picture of the sun. And then scientific research, that's the next step. Adyaksha is direct perception. And what's the next one? Following the mind. Seeing a moment right now. This is the next step. And then ultimately, there's only Shabda. Then hearing from a perfect source. The other 2 steps are discounted as not giving us perfect knowledge, but knowledge which is limited because it is man-made. So religion in the West, we should be respectful to other religions. We should not be disrespectful, and our preaching should be gentle. But at the same time, we should understand that there are some limits there. It's based on a lack of training, lack of hearing from the right source. And so, although there are so many religions, they're still good, but they're not very good. Prabhupada used to say that. Good, but not very good, because religion gives some sense of morality to people. Without religion, on earth, you can't hire enough policemen to keep law and order, basically speaking. And so, but it is blind, because it doesn't have knowledge, deep knowledge, realized knowledge, revealed knowledge. And so, as it says, Prabhupada used to say, a blind uncle is better than no uncle. So it's still good, but it's not very good. Therefore, we are very fortunate that we are in a parampara, and we have Katha teachings by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Tatva Katha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Bodhidhyanta Suvadani, with whom we sit down. And the main verse is, of course, Yashastra Vidim Utsija, one who does not listen to Shastra, Bhatate Kamakarata, and acts according to speculation. Nasasidim Avapnati will never achieve perfection. Nasukam, no happiness, na paramgatim, nor will he achieve the supreme destination. That's the verdict of Krishna. And Krishna's version is final. No other opinion is allowed, actually. as simple as that. And so, so this is this discussion with these two gentlemen. I find them very interesting. Let's look at the rest of the pictures. We have seen all this already. Morning walks. Prabhupada is describing to us so many wonderful things. This is an incident that he talked about. What's his name? There's a Bengali joker of the king of the court of the king of Bengal. Gopal something, Gopal. And so the king asked Gopal, what is the difference between a fool? What is the difference between you and a fool? And Gopal Ban, he got up and he made 3 steps or 4 steps to the king and said, 4 steps, Your Majesty. What is the difference between you and a fool? So we all laughed very heartily when Prabhupada loved Gopal Ban. And so that's this discussion right here on the spot. Let's go further. So here we are walking, and I happen to be here, walking barefoot. I cannot even imagine to do this now. On the morning walk in early mornings. Beautiful to work with Srila Prabhupada, discussing so many things. You see, I'm enjoying the discussion. Many of these people are dead by now, by the way. I mean, I could go from person to person, I know them all. Here's Gauravani Swami. He's alive. And, he's dead. He's dead. He's alive. And we are all in line. That's what Gopal Krishna Maharaj also is in a very bad way. So, and here you see Prabhupada. This is in France on a festival. And I carried Prabhupada here. You see, this is my hand in this little palanquin. So I must have been at that time about 27 years old. And still around, 1978. 50 years later. Beautiful picture. And it was interesting, when Prabhupada was there, he came from the airport. And he was tired. He drove from Paris to this New Mayapur farm, 2 hours. And he immediately took bath and gave a lecture. And he was tired. But the Vyasasam was huge. It must have been 2.5 meters wide. And so Prabhupada sat in one corner, leaning on a pillow while he was lecturing. And then as time went on, he obviously was tired. He yawned and he stretched his legs out on the Vyasasam. Then he stretched himself completely out on the Vyasasam. Only the head was on the pillow, on the round pillow. And then he fell asleep. And everybody said, oops, Prabhupada is sleeping. And so he slept for about 5 minutes or something. And he said, so Krishna, he got up, so Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. And he continued. And one nice thing happened at the end. Prabhupada asked for question and answers. And one devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, you said one time this and that. And Prabhupada said, really? Did I say that? Who said so? He said, well, such and such. And then Prabhupada said, well, you should know one thing. There are many, Prabhupada says this and Prabhupada said that, but Prabhupada never said that. It was kind of very funny to hear out of his own mouth. There are many Prabhupada said this and Prabhupada said that, but Prabhupada never said that. So that's that picture in France. And so there's some initiations here. In the end, in Frankfurt, Prabhupada took initiations. And this is actually an interesting exchange. We knew that this person, he was actually quite from a working class person, kind of less educated person. And he was actually Buddha. And so Prabhupada didn't know that. We all knew that. We were happy that it was possible to convert him. He was a hard worker. And so Prabhupada asked for the four regulative principles. And so he answered correctly. So then Prabhupada gave him the bead. At this moment, he took the beads back. You can see that. And Prabhupada said, one thing more you have to promise. He said, don't kill any animals anymore. It's amazing how Prabhupada could pick up on that, of course. It's a manifestation of the super soul. Krishna told him. The same thing happened before in New York, exactly the same thing. And Prabhupada took the beads back for a moment and asked him to promise not to kill any animals. So he's still around somewhere. He's living in America, and he's still chanting. He definitely didn't go back to his cruel profession. This is the last picture here in front of, you see me standing here with my hands up in front of Prabhupada. It was just wonderful to be with Prabhupada, to walk with Prabhupada, to hear with Prabhupada. And many things happened. So let me tell you some stories now. And let me switch. How do I switch? Share? Or what was it? Stop sharing. Yeah, there we are. All right, you see me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji, we can see. Yes, Prabhuji, we can see.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol Prabhuji.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol, Hare Bol.
Hari Bol Prabhuji. Dhanyavad Pranam.
I want to explain, tell you some more stories. When Prabhupada was in Germany, I have quite a lot of stories actually, because I was there all the way up to the end. I was in the last 3 weeks of his life. I was in his room. And so I was managing at that time. It must be 1974. I was a young man. I was 27 years old. And having a German mindset, I had a board with all the devotees on this board. They were like magnetic little strips with the names on it. Here was a daily department, here was a kitchen, here was a book distribution, here was Harinam, everything was there. And I was managing like this. I would talk with people and discuss with them, could you do this and that and move around. So the board was always in real time, so to say. And so Prabhupada, I didn't know he was standing beside me. And I looked back and I said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, please accept my obeisances. And so I bowed down and Prabhupada looked at this board and said, what is that? I said, Srila Prabhupada, all the devotees are here on this board. Prabhupada said, and then what happens? He said, I can move people around from, this is the way how I manage, from the daily department there and there to this place. And Prabhupada said, can I try that? I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. And so he started, he said, how does it work? Right, he said, how does it work? I said, it's magnetic. He said, magnetic? Let me try that. Can I try that? I said, yes. So Prabhupada took some names around, this name from here to there, from there to here. It was 4 or 5 names. And then he turned to me and said, and all this will fail. He said, 100%. He said, no love and trust between the devotees. There was such an awesome thing to say. You know, this is a grease, like if you have an engine. Many of you might be engineers. Unless the grease is there, the grease of this whole movement is love and trust. It's not love, money, trust no one. It's also love and trust, but there's perverted version of real love and trust. There's love and trust between the devotees. Then people don't go away. And we lost so many people. So many. I mean, I can make a list offhand. We unnecessarily lost because of the false ego of the manager, because he, anyway. So Prabhupada was very concerned. He understood every single person that was sent by Krishna. Was sent by Krishna. And so we appreciate it as such. Anybody would walk through the door. And sometimes we would cry when we were practicing under also. There was one disciple who couldn't see anymore. So he asked him where he said, we left. So why? Well, he was doing this and that. And Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta said, I'm not going to install the deities here today. Bring him back. And so they brought him back from home or something. And Bhaktisiddhanta cried actually. He said, how can you use such a nice soul? And don't do that. So Prabhupada was very concerned, that every devotee is so valuable. And you should try to keep everybody on board. That was that part. And I remember one time we were walking in Vrindavan, and so I asked Prabhupada this question. I was a young devotee. I asked Srila Prabhupada, can I hear something about your internal life? That was a very daring question. And Prabhupada didn't listen, kept walking. So I walked behind his side and said, Srila Prabhupada, can I hear something about that? And Prabhupada turned to me, he was very grave, and he said quite loud, he said, that you do not require. That you do not require. He said, first deserve, then desire. And so you could see Prabhupada, he was very careful what he would say and what he would not say. And the internal life that he experienced even in Krishna consciousness is not something to be discussed in the marketplace, because after all, it says that which is confidential, the Bhagavatam says, is that which is confidential is powerful as long as kept in secret, you know. So this idea of going to Radhakunda and going to Gopi Vav, while one has a hard time to keep the regular principle, like some devotees do, is bizarre. You know, this is Goshala, Sadhusanga, Atanagriti, and then Ruchi, and then ultimately you're getting the step by step through the 9 process of devotional service, but not to rush. Prabhupada said, fools rush in, but their angels dare to tread. And so this idea of rushing into Gopi Baba is unproductive. We will never be successful. You can preach Sanatana Dharma. You can preach Sadhana Bhakti, you can preach. But there's anything from Raganuga up, you cannot really preach because it is revealed to us in due course of time by Krishna's grace. And so we're going to deeply understand this, otherwise it becomes the hard years. So that was that thing. And then remember one time we were walking on the street here, right next to this property where I'm sitting in Prabhupada Ashram. And I stepped on Prabhupada's heel, and Prabhupada turned around and took his cane and put it on my breast, you know, like this, you know. He pushed me and said, I'm sorry to share Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, I'm not satisfied. I mean, just the opposite what I felt. I felt really bad. So I know he was joking. And so he didn't mean like that. So I started crying. And Prabhupada said, no, it is not. It's not a big thing. Don't worry about it. It can happen. And he said, how long are you going to stay in Vrindavan for? I said, well, Prabhupada, I'm going to go tomorrow. I'm on a flight together with Veda Vyas Prabhu, who's now Bhakti Gauravani Swami. And he said, no. He said, you can't do that. He said, you have to stay at least 3 weeks with me. He looked at this tree full of flowers and said, just enjoy the spiritual atmosphere. And we are not for us, enjoy the spiritual atmosphere that Prabhupada personally invited us to that, and we were sitting under the tree in the courtyard of the temple, and Prabhupada acknowledged us. We made eye contact. And so when we left at night at 1 o'clock, we drove back from the guest house. The servant was sitting on the steps. He said, "Where are you going?" He said, "We are leaving for Germany." And he said, "Did you ask for Prabhupada's blessing?" He said, "Prabhupada, 1 o'clock in the middle of the night." He said, "He doesn't sleep ever. He can go upstairs." So we went upstairs, and Prabhupada heard us coming. So he said, "Somebody's coming." His eyes were closed. He was lying on the bed, his eyes closed. And he said, "Somebody's coming. Who's that?" I said, "It's Prithu." And then he said, "Well, we are leaving for Germany. We're going to ask you for your blessings. Please accept my blessings." And so I'm very happy to work. So later on, this is same video, yes, no, by Gauravani Swami. I was actually translating the German Bhagavad Gita into Germany, the German language. And I bring this up, Satyananda Swami was the third one. I bring this up because I went to Prabhupada together with Chakravarti Prabhu, who was the manager at that time, printing all these books in Germany. Beautiful book of Bhagavad Gita he brought out, and we personally went to Albert Road. And so it was announced to the Prabhupada was certain that 2 boys from Germany, they're bringing you the new, louder. The 2 boys from Germany, they're bringing to you the German Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada immediately was happy. He said, "Show me." And so we gave him. Prabhupada looked at the book and looked through the pages, and it was Bible paper, very thin. And it was quite thin. German. Prabhupada bent the book over and looked at the binding. He said, "Everything first class." He said, "When I was a medical man, I used to get all my medicines from Germany." And so we were delighted to give him the Bhagavad Gita. It was another incident. And there are many stories. Let me think about it. At one time, there was a festival in Amsterdam. And I was a young devotee at that time. Prabhupada came the first time. And so we were all chanting, and Prabhupada was sitting on the asana, and the journalist jumped on the stage. And he went closer to Prabhupada and closer. And finally, he took his lens of the camera and pressed it on Prabhupada's eye. And he was so in shock, he didn't know what to do. And Prabhupada didn't at all. He kept chanting. And he said, "Down!" The man ran for his life and jumped from the stage and ran away. And one of my godbrothers, Chakravarti, the same person that I went to Katha to present the Bhagavad Gita, he went after him. And then I heard that there was huge tumultuous scene somewhere in the back of the public. And he came back and I said, "Did you beat him?" He said, "I beat him like anything." I was very satisfied. I mean, we are not being violent people, but sometimes people they deserve a good beating. I give you an example. There was Keshava Prabhu. He was originally it was a Green Beret in Vietnam. These were a hardcore rapid action group. It's an American Army. So he came to Los Angeles. He was from Los Angeles. And when he came, the devotees told him that there's a man at the airport who always rips our books. He takes the book and rips it into pieces and throws it into the rubbish bin. And so Keshava said, "Leave it up to me, I take care of that." So they went to the airport, and Keshava sat down and he watched this man doing this 3-4 times. And then he went to the bathroom, and Keshava followed him. And the rest is history. I mean, he beat him to the bone, practically speaking, so much so that he had to be picked up in an ambulance. So Prabhupada heard about it. So he called Keshava. That Keshava where have you been today? He said, Srila Prabhupada, I went to the airport. And then what did you do at the airport? He said, well, I was just sitting there, Prabhupada. And then he said, I saw a man, he was ripping these books. He takes books from the devotees and he was ripping them into pieces and throwing them in the rubbish bin. And Prabhupada said, then what did you do then? He said, well, he went to the toilet. And Prabhupada said, what did you do? He said, I followed him. And Prabhupada said, and then what did you do then? He said, Srila Prabhupada, I beat him like anything. And Prabhupada laughed. He said, very good. We heard this on Sankirtan, we had this on tape. Prabhupada said, very good. So, anyway, that's why we need Kshatriyas to protect this movement. So this is one story outside of the ordinary. So let me think about something else. Otherwise, I see we're getting to the end. And then we talk about the last days. So in Prabhupada, I was just packing my Sankirtan van, my book van, when I got a call from the castle, temple was, that you have to go in 2 days, 3 days to fly to America. Prabhupada is leaving his body. So I was delighted and shocked and everything. Before I knew I was in the aircraft, and I arrived in Vrindavan in the afternoon, and I saw Prabhupada before that in spring in London, in the Bhaktivedanta Manor. It was so emaciated. He had, how much time do we have? Can somebody tell me?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, you can go as long. Also, Lord, all of them practically will like to ask you some questions.
Let me, can I have another 10 minutes?
Yeah, aram se. All are free.
So
Today,
hold on to your questions. This is interesting, the last. So I arrived there. So Prabhupada in London, he was very emaciated, but his feet were swollen. I saw that. And he had to be rushed to the hospital. And he had some problem to pass number 2. And so the doctor, they relieved him from this situation. The doctor told him, an Indian doctor, he said, Swamiji, you have to take dialysis. You have to go on a machine 2 times a week. And Prabhupada said, I'm not going to have that. He said, because your liver is bad. You have to take dialysis for cleaning the blood. And so when I arrived there, I saw Prabhupada was very, even more emaciated. And I had the opportunity to massage his feet at some time, and I saw they were very swollen. They were pumped up with almost like balloons with water. If you press it, it is white, and then take the thumb of it, it becomes red again. So I understood that he had kidney problems. And so I massaged his feet, and then in the end of this conversation, or this being there, he asked Tamakrishna Goswami, somebody should sing. And so Tamakrishna Goswami asked everybody, anybody can sing? He said, well, I can sing. He said, play harmonium? He said, yes. So I sang about 2 hours. And then Prabhupada said, at the end, he said, let him come back tomorrow. So this is an incredible thing that happened to me. Every time I sang from 2 o'clock in the morning, Tamakrishna Goswami said, you have to come at 2. All the way up to 8, 6 hours. What an experience sitting there. Most of the time I was alone with Prabhupada. And so I sang from 2 to 6. I don't know how I did this. I can't do it now, but it was just in the presence of your Guru, what can't you do? And so every time Prabhupada said it, and then on up to the last day, I sang in the morning and Prabhupada left in the evening. So that was very special. And I realized that why Prabhupada asked me to do this service, because I was very foreign devotee, and so Prabhupada gave me a special mercy. So while he was in his bed, different discussions, and just one discussion I thought was very interesting, that he had some pains, and he had a dream that Ramanudra Vaidya, an Ayurvedic doctor from Calcutta, could relieve him from this pain. And so Adi Dharana Prabhu, he was the DVC at that time. No, sorry, he was a Tamil president. We were friends. So Adi came the next day with his doctor, Ramanudra doctor, big Ramanudra Srila. And he examined Prabhupada, and he said, yes, his body is very weak. You have to give him something to crank up the engine, start up the engine. He should take Makradvach. And so somebody was sent, was sent to get that Makradvach because the doctor didn't bring any medicines. And so he came, it was administered. So the next morning, I was there, I just had finished singing. I stood at his bed. Prabhupada said, I think I've been poisoned. I was in shock. I think I've been poisoned. So I went upstairs, guest house, where the doctor was staying with Adi in the same room, Adi Dharana. And I said to him, the doctor came down, examined him. He told us, but on the way down, he said, it's impossible. I examined him yesterday. There's no such a thing. So he came and examined the body and said, yes. He said, there's a problem here. This medicine, this Makradvach, there's a homeopathic quantity of arsenic acid in it, like in many Ayurvedic medicines, very small. He said, it's obviously overdone. You have to stop the medication immediately. And so from that day on, the medication was not, and Prabhupada never said a word anymore for the rest of his stay on the planet. So it's a very simple story that actually happened. It's lingering all over the internet, conspiracy, ex-champions going on and on. But it's a very simple story. They speculate because there's no knowledge. I was there, I saw it. You can see the same story in Bhakti Swami's book. You can see the same story in Giriraj's book, Iraj Maharaj's book. It's a very simple story. Just like when Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita about the soul, everything is very simple. But then people don't have this knowledge. They come to all kinds of theories in the name of this religion, that religion, this religion. Because it's Manodharma. Krishna said that Manodharma should be given up. It's not a matter of thinking what we think. I remember one time there was Prabhupada, one devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, sometimes I'm thinking. And Prabhupada said, don't do that. Said, don't do that. Because he knew that he was speculating. So speculating is one of the vices of the material world. That we speculate about something we do not know and try to make it sense according to our own mental or intelligence, our own faculties. And something else comes out, something very different from what it is supposed to be. As I say, as a joke, I heard that what is a camel? What is a camel? Is a question. The camel is a horse designed by a committee. Every one of the committee members, he adds a little bit here, in my opinion, that you end up with a camel very far away from the actual horse. And so the nature to speculate is something that spoils everything. And we see this again and again and again, that Prabhupada don't change anything. His last days, one of the last days, I stood right beside Prabhupada, and he gave this wonderful example. He was, let's be 2 days before, he wanted medicine. And so he asked his servant, can you give me medicine? He said, yes, Prabhupada. And so Prabhupada took the medicine, didn't take it, and then Prabhupada said, did you close the bottle? That's up on that shelf. Close the bottle. Anyway, so I had this thought, I couldn't figure out why it was important to take the bottle. So he said, no, Srila Prabhupada, I forgot. And then Prabhupada said, that is your disease. And here comes the Siddhanta. He said, that is your disease, all of you. He said, you know how to open bottles. You don't know how to close them. You start so many new things, and you don't see the consequences. That is the history of mankind. You open bottles. Modern scientists understand by now that the universe is fine-tuned, very fine-tuned by the Lord himself. And so is material nature, is very fine-tuned. And actually our bodies are very fine-tuned, perfect. Whatever is created by the Lord, this verse is complete and perfect in itself. So the body is complete, material nature is complete, everything is fine-tuned. So, but we go in there with a session in the name of science and turn basically into art and not destroying everything because of this mentality. The rivers are polluted, the oceans are polluted, the water is polluted, the earth is polluted, the food is polluted, our bodies are polluted. Nobody knows how to close his bottle anymore. It has gone completely out of control. That's the history of human nature. Opening bodies and doing that. So he said that you know how to open bottles, that's your disease. You don't know how to close it, you start so many new things and you don't see the consequences. And then he added the last sentence, and that was, you know how to live and you don't know how to die. I like to show you. And this sequence led to the idea that Yaruba was called to film Prabhupada's film. This is how this came about, all of this discussion, how that's the whole thing from the beginning to the end of the film. And so another thing I remember, that just before Prabhupada left in his last day, he was already, I saw my father die, I saw my brother die, so you know it's coming. You have to see this only one time in your life. Anybody has seen a person die, he knows these are the death is at the doorstep. And so then lifted his hand very carefully. And he lifted his hand like this, and he said, hand was not trembling. He said, it took him about 2 minutes to say, 3 minutes, maybe 5. He said, everything moving and non-moving. He said, there's nothing but Krishna. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. These are the last words. Everything moving and non-moving is nothing but Krishna. Yomam Pashyati Savatra Samam Shaman Pashyati, that verse, one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I'm never lost to him, nor is he ever lost to me. So these were the glorious words of Prabhupada, last message, showing to the whole world that he was transcendental, that he was with Krishna. I'm never lost to him, nor is he ever lost to me. And after some time he said, Hare Krishna. He didn't even complete the whole word of Krishna, he was already gone. And so he carried him to town. When his body was washed, I was actually there. I helped him. Krishna was one. He had probably had no rigor mortis. He could lift up his hand like this, normally people die. And but self-realized souls don't have rigor mortis. He saw it when he was handed down to the pit, to the Samadhi pit. His legs fell down. Angle, it was not a pretty picture. So he had no rigor mortis, and so his head was, what do you do? He said his mouth was down. Because he opened his mouth, last thing, Hare Krishna. And so I said, maybe use a gamsha. And so I got the gamsha, puts the head on. You can see this on these last pictures. It was my last service in Prabhupada, really. And so when he was handed down to the, asked to keep the people back, Tamas said, you're German, you got to keep the people back. So I did that. And so I saw that they put salt around Prabhupada and then a bamboo stick on his head. couldn't figure out what that was all about, all the way to the top. Earth, and when they came to the top, the stick was sticking out. You put a mount around it, you pull a stick out. And I asked somebody, what is this? He said, it was for marking. It's a marker that we know exactly where the body is. So I'm telling this because it's a very important story that evolved from that. And I had a vivid dream about it the next night. And Prabhupada told us dreams in the spiritual masters of life may be important and not important, but after leaves they're very important. So I had this important dream that there was, when the stick was pulled out, there was a little hole, but in my dream it was like a chimney, and I was leaning on this chimney, and I saw Prabhupada's form down there. And all of a sudden Prabhupada came in a very beautiful form, very etheric form. You could almost look through it. It was no doubt Prabhupada. He knew on the other side, and he told me into the face. He said, they think that I'm dead. Then he disappeared. Very significant. Because all the things that happen in ISKCON, sometimes they can only happen if you think Prabhupada is dead. And the cat is away, the mice will play. This is a famous English saying. And so that was the truth. Prabhupada didn't die. He really thinks that Vaishnava dies while he's living still and sound. And our Chandramoli Swami, he told me just recently, maybe a year or 2 years, when I asked him, can I talk about this publicly? He said, you must. It's a very important message. It's not about me. So he's reading Prabhupada's books loud every day. And so at one stage he realized that the atmosphere has changed. And so he stopped reading loud, and then Prabhupada's voice came in and kept reading for about so many minutes. And it's amazing. You can see Prabhupada, he's alive. When he watches over this movement, by the end of the day, we don't have to worry, because so many crazy things have been happening already, and so many crazy things will happen, besides all the good things in this movement. But ultimately, we don't have to worry about the Hare Krishna movement. There were some business people from Bombay that came to Prabhupada, well-to-do businessmen, and said, Swamiji, you have to assign a successor, you're getting old. And Prabhupada said, I won't do that. My spiritual master also won't do that. He said, well, then he said, Prabhupada, then what? He said, your movement is 100% finished. And Prabhupada said, and you're 100% wrong. He said, this is Lord Chaitanya's movement. It's inaugurated by God himself. It will be 100% successful. He said, but it will take some time. It will take some time. And so Prabhupada was completely confident that this movement is going to be completely successful. But we have to go, we are still in our, how do you say, in our juvenile phase. We were young people there, and our preaching was not always perfect. I remember there was one devotee, priest came, Catholic priest with a whole bunch of his followers to find out about the Hare Krishna movement. He was not prejudiced, he wanted to know. So the devotee explained to him, and then the priest said, now if you look at our philosophy of course, we say that nobody comes to the Father but through me. How do you put the two things together? Then this young devotee said, Father, I have one question to you. Are you eating meat? He said, yes, I eat meat. The devotee said, that means you're a pig. There was an explosion in the room. The room was empty for 2 minutes. They're in such a shock. This is not good preaching. It is, what he said is not wrong. What is it? That verse, men who are like camels and asses, hawks, dogs, camels and asses. So when he spoke, it was not appropriate, the way how he presented it. So Prabhupada was the expert to present things in such a way. There are more things, but I think I stopped here. Prabhupada converted my father-in-law, not converted him, but he spoke to him for almost 3 hours. That's the whole story. I do touch that. Let's not do that. No questions. Any questions? I hope you enjoyed the talk. It's always nice to talk about Prabhupada. And it's always nice to talk to devotees, particularly in Mangalore. I was there about almost 50 years ago, walking over the street in my dhoti, and a Christian priest stopped me in Mangalore. He said, "You are Hare Krishna." I said, "Yes, Father." He said, "Why did you change?" Been before, I said, "A Catholic." I know. And he was a Jesuit. And so he said, "Why don't you come in our seminar and explain the philosophy?" I said, "Yes, I come." So in the back of my mind, I knew what he wanted, actually, that I say something, and then after I'm gone, he said, "Well, they believe that you become reincarnated as a carrot," and they ridicule the whole thing. They believe in worshiping a horse or something. And so I studied comparative religion and very versed in Christian theology. I come from that place. And so I learned in college that there's a huge difference between the historical Jesus and the official church Jesus, Manada, the philosophy about Jesus. And so that was the first sentence I said. And I started explaining. The priest became very nervous. He talked to the other priests. And the priests were, tell us more. They never heard such a thing. It went on and on and on about the historical Jesus. And from a Krishna conscious point of view, they were eating it. It was like the soul. I wrote, "Tell me more, tell me more, tell me more." The priest got up and said, "You got to leave right away." I said, "Father, he gave me 2 hours. He invited me for 2 hours. He said, if you like it, ask the kids." They're like, "Yeah, we want you, please tell more, tell more. This is very interesting. We never heard these things." The priest said, "You see, they like it." The priest said, "If you don't go right now, I have to call the police and arrest you because of breach of peace." So I had to go, and I turned around and the 2 police, and I took a big pack of invitation cards and threw them in the garbage. 100 seconds. So anyway, this was my experience of Bangalore since you were already there. So do you have any questions? I should come sometimes and visit you. I do not.
When that is possible, is that possible before you go to Germany?
I'm flying Friday from.
Oh, Friday is very soon.
I'm flying Friday, and my mind is already in there. You know, my body is here, but my mind and my heart is there because I'm going to preach there around the clock. You know, and I started the preaching island there, and with my wife and one person, one brahmachari, and so yes, we have beautiful deities. We have an island in the middle of a lake. Beautiful, gorgeous Radha Krishna deities, bigger than Radha Shyam in Vrindavan, as big as Krishna Balaram. Very beautiful deities. And
you told me about it, that at the preaching, finally you purchased one island, and ISKCON has that island, correct?
yeah, it's a very beautiful place.
Yes, anybody would like to please ask all the co-hosts. I made you co-host to ask a question. Please ask some question. Yes, Shreya Mataji, what is your question? First thing we have to thank, we are very, very grateful to hear about Prabhupada, and it was very touching. And we hope we can, we cannot come, but at least some service to Prabhupada we all get. Okay, yes, Shreya Mataji, what do you like? What do you want to ask question?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for the wonderful class. So I have a doubt that many of us are not very fortunate to have a personal connection with the spiritual master. So in that case, how can we establish a very strong relationship with the spiritual master, even though if we don't have a personal connection, personal association?
Now she is saying that in the setup of ISKCON today, they hardly meet their spiritual master, so they have no personal relationship. So
We have, you're not aware of it. The Prabhupada used to say that the grandfather is more kind to his grandchildren than to his own children. You have Prabhupada is there. If you read, like you just follow the example of Chandramani Swami, he reads loud. If you read loud, and it's hard to do that. Today, for example, I got out of bed and something. And I started reading loud something for half an hour. You associate with Prabhupada directly by reading his books. And he said that, and in my books. So you can have the same association like everybody else of us had in his, not in his Vapu, but in his Vani. But by reading, directly associated with Prabhupada, and you can ask him questions. There is one devotee here, Nimai Prabhu. He's a disciple of Prabhupada. And he told me that whenever he's an Indian man, nice man, he's working in the treasury of the temple. He said, whenever I have a problem, I go into Prabhupada's Samadhi and say, Srila Prabhupada, what should I do about that? I don't know what to do. And he said, in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, I got the perfect answer. So it is not that Prabhupada is gone. He reasons everything that Vaishnava dies. You are can be as much related to Prabhupada as much as you read. In the same way as you can be as much connected with Krishna as much as you chant properly. So we associate with Krishna, very simple thing by chanting Hare Krishna, associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the same way, by reading Prabhupada's books loud, you associate with Prabhupada. What more you want, Mataji? Is there anything? There isn't anything. You see? Everything is there, So you're not deprived at all, Prabhupada is a manifestation of the Super Soul. He can speak to you. When I was searching for Krishna consciousness, I had this experience that I was crying for spiritual life. And so I remember one day I was sitting I did a little hotspot altar. This Buddha was there, and in the back of my bed, there was a big picture of Radha Krishna, but I didn't know it was God. I thought it was some Hindu deva. And so I was sitting there and thinking about a question I had. And the door opened, and my little nephew came in. He must have been 4 years old. And he started speaking. It was so profound. He had no idea what he was talking about. Absolutely no. But what he said was just the answer to my question. So I have, and he said to me 2-3 times, he said that he came, was an ignorant little child. He gave me the perfect answer to what I was just wondering about. So Prabhupada, in the same way, he can come to you. There are many people who have this experience. I saw one of your listeners, he also made remarks that I have the same experience. Nobody is deprived. We are connected with Krishna as much as we want to, as much as we strive to. And whether you're Prabhupada disciple or grand disciple makes absolutely no difference.
Aishwarya Mataji would like to ask something.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Loud.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful class. Been always wondering how you all were with Srila Prabhupada. But as you said, yes, we try to read Srila Prabhupada's book, but most of the devotees find it difficult to read for half an hour, 1 hour. So how do you recommend them?
My only solution is to get out of bed and immediately sit down and read for half an hour. First Shravanam, then Kirtanam. It makes a big difference. I did it today, for example. Later in the day, it's impossible. Impossible to, because the mind is far away. Mood of passion comes in the evening. And just a potato practice in the evening. I can listen to tape maybe. So reading is concentrated reading loud. Prabhupada opens up so many things. You see them. I've read the Bhagavad Gita so many times, but then so many things come out that you never notice actually. That it's a living book. And so the best thing is the first thing, even if you just take 20 minutes, half an hour, take that. And then you find that because you already started later in the day, you may be able to have an entrance to it, an easier entrance, because you already started something, just continue where you stop, reading in the morning. So that's the best way. And then you chant Hare Krishna mantra loud.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Sachidananda Prabhu, you like to ask some question?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandos Pranam. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandos Pranam. I met you in Mayapur. Last year I met you in Mayapur. I came to you as a singer. Hare Krishna. So my question is how to develop intense desire to serve. While serving, all the time we will not get intense desire. Sometimes we will be having. How to have this intense desire to serve. Prabhupada mission.
This is verse, Vidya Vinaya something, it's one verse in the Yani Parani. There's one verse where it says, one may refrain from sense gratification, but the taste remains. What is this verse?
Vishaya Vinivartante.
Vidya Vinaya, what is it?
Vishaya Vinivartante Niraha.
That the higher taste makes everything possible. We don't have to solve our little problems, this problem, that problem. We just have to turn to Krishna. That solves it. Krishna, Surya, Sama, Maya, Andhaka. That's the key. That's what Prabhupada said. 90% of our progress in spiritual life is chanting the holy name attentively. So there's a saying in America, don't sweat the small stuff. Everybody has some small stuff, this problem, that habit. Somebody has this habit, that habit, this, that. You know, we have some regular, 4 regular principles are sufficient. But there's so many other problems. And we should not try to get involved in that, in problem solving. We should just focus on the big stuff. And then to hear properly and to chant properly. These two things, and to serve properly. You know, and everything goes automatically. You look at the verse in Bhagavad Gita, it's 49, I think. Vishavinavatati is 59 in the second chapter. And then in the second chapter, 49 is what? You know this verse? Somebody in the Bhagavad Gita there? 249. You looking it up?
Durena hi avaram.
Yes,
Durena hi avaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddhau sharanam anvacha kripana phala hetavaha.
In English.
Again.
I can show this the verse.
What's the English?
Okay, in English. O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of the work are misers.
So Krishna is saying we should keep all abominable activity, all conditioning, far distant by the power of devotional service. It's the devotional service that solves everything. It is hearing that solves everything. One time, Prabhupada met a very famous lady. What was her name? Jazz musician in Vrindavan. And she asked Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, I have so many problems. So this problem, that problem, that problem, that problem, that problem. Alice Coltrane, famous person. And Prabhupada said, Alice, he said, you just chant. Chant, chant. He said, and then all your problems will be solved. He said, I started this movement simply by chanting Hare Krishna. So the way to solve our problem is to bring Krishna into our life, to bring Prabhupada into our lives. Krishna Surya Sama Maya, the Krishna is in darkness. Otherwise, we try to solve our problems ourselves. But we shouldn't even attempt that because there are too many. But they are all inspired by Maya. You cannot fight Maya. The best thing is to focus on the big stuff. Namely, reading every day. We must. I myself am very good at it, but I'm attempting. Best thing I find is early in the morning, get up and try and read for half an hour, and then loud and try to understand this wonderful thing that the tongue is producing a transcendental sound vibration. Krishna himself. And it's such a listen. The tongue we chant, with the ear we hear the sound. And we are with Krishna. What better association can you have than Krishna? You take care of all that. And when Prabhupada said that when he installed the deities in Duram, he said, now you can go to Krishna Balaram or to Bonitai. And you tell them that I solved the problem. He said, and they will take care of it. They will take care of it. So he clearly said that. So what really saves us is Nityananda. Gita Parakamala, Chanda, Sisitara. That's the saving grace right there. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Dhanya Dhameshwari, you like to ask some question?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, pranams Prabhu. First of all, I would like to thank from my heart for the wonderful session given by the Prabhuji. And I too have the similar question what Sachidananda Prabhuji has asked. So whenever we are hearing and whenever we are having a discussion or giving a session, so the intense devotion will be very high. But how to maintain that throughout that is whenever we are dealing even with the materialistic things also, Prabhuji. This was my question actually.
Yes, my answer is so much of you. I heard one time Prabhupada said the following thing. He said the gopis were engaged in the most ordinary activities. Besides dancing with Krishna, they were cooking like everybody else, they were cleaning like everybody else, they're making butter, they're making yogurt, etc. He said, but these are the activities that every karmi does, exactly the same activities. He said, but the difference is their minds are always on Krishna. They're thinking about Krishna. Then let me cook for Krishna, let me clean for Krishna, let me offer this for Krishna, let me organize this for Krishna, let me give a lecture for Krishna. So it's a matter of meditation to keep meditating like this, that we eat for Krishna, we offer for Krishna, we sing for Krishna, we dance for Krishna. To connect this always, all these activities to Krishna. And our mind, of course, our mind goes off in so many different ways. But the good news is the mind may be dirty. As an American rock musician who said that, what is the dirtiest part of the body? Some people think it is your nose, some people think it is your toes, but it's your mind. So the mind may be full of this or that, but you don't have to bother about that. Even if you think things which are not proper and which are maybe even sinful, in Kali you will be accused of that, excused about bad mental activities, and not counted actually. But we do what we do for Krishna. That's the thing. So we all have to do something for Krishna. So we have to think, what can I do for Krishna? And everybody can preach some other Krishna consciousness. You know.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for your wonderful explanation. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Lalita Mataji, you like to ask something?
Okay, Lalita. Mataji.
Lalita Vinodini. Okay. Vipin will ask Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, you like to ask something?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my humble obeisance.
Louder.
Yeah, it was a wonderful session, Prabhuji. Just I want to ask actually where I am working is a multinational and multicultural people actually. So how we can give the Krishna consciousness to this type of people? Because that I want to know, Prabhu. Because most of the time I have to stay along with them only because I am working in the offshore type. So if I want to give Krishna consciousness, how we can how I can give? Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
What did he say?
He is saying he's actually in Abu Dhabi, surrounded by mostly Muslims. He says, "How do I preach to them?"
You can't. You can't. It's like if you meet a normal Christian, you can't preach to them. You know, I remember one time I was sitting in a train and, in a compartment by myself, I was chanting. This must be 40 years ago. And so one old man came and said, looked at me and said, son, he said, what are you doing there? I said, I chant Krishna's name. He said, Krishna? He said, he shook his head. He said, Jesus died for your sins. Nobody comes to the Father but without Jesus. Turn to Jesus, forget all that. And so I understood he was a hardcore. He was in the box. His brain was in the box. And so I got the idea. I said to him, I don't believe you actually follow Jesus. He said, why do you say that? I said, Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, isn't it? He said, yes, that's true. He said, do you follow that? He said, yes. He said, you follow that always and everywhere? He said, yes, I follow that. I said, okay, then let me ask you another question. How much money you have in your pocket? He said, now what does that have to do with our discussion? I said, simple question, how much money you have in your pocket? He looked in his pocket and said, $100. I said, love your neighbor as yourself means 50-50. $50. He said, now hold on a minute. I said, love your neighbor as yourself. Are you practicing what you're preaching? Practice what you preach. Give me $50. I need that $50. So he gave it to me. And I embraced him as that. You're a really good Christian. You see, no use to disturb the mind of the ignorant. But somehow or other, his spiritual life began. He performed Agyata Sukriti, big time, engaged him in Krishna's service, you know. So we have many books produced by Satyanarayan Prabhu, doctor of mine, preaching to Muslims in Arabian language, many, you know. So I would have, you know, a book like this ready for that occasion. I said, read a book, have a look at that, you know. Because I found in Germany, we have many Muslims, particularly from Saudi Arabia. They come in summer and they have loaded this money. You know, they rent a hotel for $3,000 a night and fly from there, from the roof to the helicopter into the Alps to ski in the middle of summer. It's unbelievable. And but we found, and they're here, and many of the women are in the key, what do you call that, in this black coat, but they're always very attentive and they hear Hare Krishna mantra. And they understand in their own ways this is religion, you know, and they always buy books from us. And as soon as he gives them a book, they put it very quick, you know, and they smuggle it into the country. I find there's some receptivity there. I also heard yesterday on the internet, there's thousands and thousands of young Muslims who are leaving Muslim religion. In America, as much as 25%. And the mullahs were discussing this in this YouTube film. They were worried that we're losing our youth. So there is potential there. I know many Muslims in our, say, in Sarajevo, which is in the Balkans. What's a place called? Anyway, so many Muslims that joined the Hare Krishna movement. In Sarajevo, in the Kazakhstan, the daughter of the main man, she's shedding 16 months. The father is a Muslim, but he told her not to talk about that in public. Not to talk about that in public. So there was one devotee who told me from that part of the world. He said, I asked him when I was in Kazakhstan, how did your parents take it that you became a Hare Krishna devotee? After this, sent this guy an email and said, it's really said, anyway.
Okay.
So they called, parents were very disturbed, and they called the mullah. The mullah came sitting there when his boy came with his parents. The mullah said, you bring your son, you will talk with him. And there were 3 mullahs. And so they asked him, now what is this Krishna? You tell us, we want to know this. And so he explained Krishna consciousness. And then the mullahs were nodding their heads, and it was kind of very interesting for them. They went back in their room, and they came back and said to the parents, he said, this is a religion. He said, this has all the ingredients, the best of the ingredients of Muslim religion is there. He said, it is a religion. It's not our religion, but it is religion. And so you should tolerate and let him do that. He's on a good road. So they're Muslims and Muslims. Some people are open-minded. This Christian I talked to in the training was not open-minded. So I just caught him in a different way. I caught him with his own scripture. So you could ask this question. Say, for example, being in a restaurant or in the place where in a university setting, and you find out this person is a Muslim or Christian. You ask him, let me ask you one question. How is it that in the presence of God, the innocent suffer? What is your answer? What is the answer of Muslim religion, Christian religion? They don't have an answer. They don't have an answer. Because they don't believe in the previous life. They believe that whatever I do now is reflected perfectly in my future life. They believe that. But they don't get that the same mechanism applies to this life. This life is nothing but the reactions of our past life, good or bad. So that's the point. That's the point where you can really, the weak, the Achilles heel. If you cut the Achilles heel, you cannot walk anymore. You're finished as a warrior, you know? And so the Achilles heel of all Abrahamic religions, Islam, Jewish religion, is this: don't have an answer. Why do innocent suffer? I asked my priest, who was 10 years old, why do my brothers suffer? There's no answer. They have been trying to find answers for 2,000 years. They don't have an answer. So you challenge him like that. He said, give me an answer. So I don't know. I said, I can give you the answer. He may not accept it, but that's his problem. You know? It's his problem because people are stubborn. So if I tell you, have you ever eaten cheese? You said, no. He said, you know how cheese looks? I said, no. Ever touched cheese, smell cheese? You know. In other words, you don't know what cheese is. I said, no. And you show him, take a piece of cheese and show it to him and say, that's cheese. He said, I don't believe that. There's no knowledge, but if you tell them the truth, you know, about Krishna consciousness, you know, about Krishna, about God, etc., everything makes sense. He said, do you take this idea that I'm suffering the relation of this life? I don't believe it. But he doesn't have the criterion to decide whether it's true or not, because he's not in knowledge. You see? So this is the point. You have to argue like this, you know. You have to catch them. Prabhupada said you have to catch the fish without getting wet, particularly in Muslim countries, you know. I mean, I wouldn't suggest to any one of you to have a Harinam party on Friday afternoon in front of the mosque, seeing Allah is great, Krishna is greater. You get nothing of that. Obviously, you'll see that there's a limits, you know. But if you intelligently, if somebody asks a good question, you ask them, let me ask you a question. What is your explanation? All of a sudden, if he is serious, if there's sincerity, you say, my God, I never thought about that. I never thought about that. You see, then you can explain to him, every religious God inspired. There's Allah, there's you call God Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, Krishna. God has many names. He said, in all scriptures, there are thousands of names. And you know that name of God that we have. He said, I don't know. Said, yes, you do. But how is that? He said, well, in Quran it says that the Prophet Muhammad, Allah revealed 99 names of God, 100 names of God. 99 he spoke to the Prophet Muhammad. It's right in the Quran. And the 100th name he spoke into the ear of a camel. Is that true? He said, yes, that's true. I said, what is that name? He said, I don't know. I said, you know that name. I said, how? You know what Dan means? Dan means to give in Sanskrit. So Ramadan means to give to Ram. The name is right there in your own religion. Right?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Are we ready for prasadam?
No, we want to know when we can have the next session.
I think we have to wait a little bit. I can do it from Europe because my mind is not already there.
Yeah.
My body is still there, but my mind is there, and I'm organizing the preach. You're gonna have to call the airline, make sure that I can have 2 bags and details like this, and fix my on computer some problems here and there. It's not possible. This was a good opportunity for me to talk about Prabhupada. I'm very grateful to that, for that opportunity, and particularly in Bangalore, where I try to explain to the Christians about the depths of Krishna consciousness. I'll definitely come to Bangalore, no doubt about it. Prabhu, I'm finished. I'm finished. So I thank you very much. God bless you all. And you can take the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda right from your screen. If you touch your screen or with your forehead, you receive the mercy of Lord Nityananda right there. That's all you have to do.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
We are
Prabhuji.
blessed. We are blessed.
Hare Krishna, Dhamma Pranam.
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, blessed by and associated Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna,
Pranam.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna,
Dandavatam.
Hare
Krishna Prabhuji, Pranams Prabhuji.
The link to the
Hare
text.
Krishna Prabhuji.
I'll send you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandava Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Pranam, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So we're very fortunate. He's in Vrindavan, and with the old age, the voice, 2 hours is too much for artists. He's around 80 years now. To 2 hours a week, it's
But for 2
Thank you so
hours, it
much
is amazing.
for
Amazing,
accepting
Prabhuji. It was
the
amazing lecture.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, we are blessed just to have the darshan of Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
He is telling, did you hear the story of Mangalore? He's telling he came to Mangalore, and when Christian told him that, why you're, because by his face, not now, 30 years ago, he can know he was a European, correct? So they know he's not by birth, he's maybe Christian. So he went to church to talk to them, and all the priests were shocked because he actually is an expert in Christian theology. He's an expert. And he told them that Jesus as church teaches is different from what the actual Bible says. And they heard it for 2 hours. He was telling. Actually, he is very much expert in comparative religion, Christian theology. He has written a lot of books on that for Christians to understand actually that Jesus presented is not the way it is originally in the Bible, the way churches are presenting, and he's an authority on that. So Christians talking to him is a big trouble. He's telling the very nice instance, no train he caught one person, correct? On Bible itself. He said you should love your neighbor like yourself, and he caught him on that and took out $50. So yes, Hare Krishna. Okay, so nice.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you. Then with
Hare Krishna. Dhanyavad Prabhuji. Wonderful.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Dhamma Pranam.
So organize.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam.
We should have 1,000 people when we have a lecture. I know the language is the issue for some people, but still, such an opportunity, personally hearing face to face, asking questions. I wanted people organize yourself better. So when we have an event like this, it should be 999 full. Okay. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you.